Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today we're talking about something called ghostwriting. Okay, ghostwriting is when somebody writes something for you. If you're trying to, say, write a novel or something, or if you want to write your dissertation or your thesis for university or whatever, and you don't think you are qualified enough yourself, well, then you hire someone to do it for you, even though that is sneaky, it is cheating. But what the heck? Lots of people do it, right?
No. Unfortunately, we're finding out that more and more are doing this. It's not technically illegal, but it's definitely cheating, and if you're caught, they'll throw you out of the school. So I would say be careful with this. I can also tell you that it's pretty obvious to a native speaker or your professor if you wrote the paper that has amazingly good English when they're used to dealing with you and they can tell, it's a second language for you, you're going to make mistakes. Unfortunately, I have a personal story about ghostwriting. I managed a group of people at a management consulting firm, and I managed the graphics department, but one of the girls that worked for me actually was doing this on the side. So she was ghostwriting for other people who paid her a lot of money. I didn't even know stuff like that went on. Nowadays, though, Tom, we're going to find out that they can actually use software to analyze whether your writing patterns are your own or someone else's. So be careful out there. The best thing to do is do your best, turn it in, and your teacher will understand, I think.
Hopefully people don't do this too much. It is cheating after all, and that means people who aren't qualified are getting credit for something that they didn't do.
True.
Okay, so indeed, if they get out into the business world, maybe it will, be bad for them because they don't really know what they're doing and they'll get fired or whatever. So it's still the best to do the work yourself. But unfortunately, this business does exist out there, ghostwriting. So let's find out what this is all about. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson now one time.
It might startle you to learn this, but you don't need to be a good writer to be a straight-A student. All you need is money. This idea is the root of an issue that's plaguing many universities in the UK and the US. In recent years, college students have begun passing on their assignments to academic ghostwriters, specialists in research, essay writing, and structure, who are paid to do their homework. The essay for hire industry has spread rapidly across the developing world, particularly in countries like Ukraine and India, where eloquent English speakers are plentiful and salaries in other jobs are low. The pay for essay writing can be astonishing. Ghostwriters in Kenya, for example, can take home up to $2,000 a month, about 38 times the average national income. While this may be pulling third world writers out of poverty, first world universities are panicking about what it might mean for academic prestige and integrity. It's a huge problem, commented one director at the University of California, San Diego. It could turn every great university into a diploma mill. Luckily, experts have been wising up to academic ghostwriting. This year, US-based tech company Turnitin released new software that identifies ghost-written documents by analyzing sentence patterns and comparing them with the student's previous assignments. Although this may curb academic ghostwriting, the University of Nottingham's Julia Molinari fears it fails to address the root of the problem. Students are often given tight deadlines, and for non-native English speakers, writing in the style required by academic institutions is often extremely challenging. If the system isn't reformed, will time-constrained students stop cheating? It's unlikely.
Okay, let's get to it. Let's discuss the contents of today's lesson. And this month, of course, we're talking about the topic or the issue of ghost writing, and we're describing it as the sneaky business of academic ghostwriting. So I guess ghostwriting could be for like a novel or an article where you have somebody write it for you and you just use a different name. But if we use the word academic, we're talking about doing this in a university setting, okay?
Well, one example, Tom, for ghostwriting that is legal and honest is typically a memoir or, an autobiography, or someone wants to write about their time spent in Washington, D.C. as a politician. They're often using a ghostwriter to help them put their thoughts on a page. That's okay. But if you're using a ghostwriter to get a diploma from a university, that's cheating.
Indeed. So, yeah, we're specifying here it's academic ghostwriting that takes place in an academic setting.
Yeah.
Now, here's the first paragraph here. It says, "It might startle you to learn this, but you don't need to be a good writer to be a straight A student." That is true. I've known lots of smart people who have gotten straight A's, perfect scores, the best grades they could get in their classes. But when you read their essays or read their writing, you think, gee, this person may not have graduated from the 6th grade or something. Their writing quality is pretty bad. So, indeed, you can get straight A's, but not be a good writer. There are ways around that. Of course, we're not encouraging you to do that. It is dishonest.
It is. Actually, I had a couple professors who had written textbooks, and I thought their writing was pretty bad, too. So just because you have, a PhD in something, especially in a field that's considered science, it doesn't mean you're a good writer. So not everybody has that gift, but as long as you do your own work, you can feel good about yourself and keep your integrity, which is important. Straight A is how we talk about our grades in the U.S. So instead of saying, oh, I got 90% in this class or 87%, sometimes we'll get percentage points on a test. Not in a test, but on a test, guys. Get that right. But if we get a report card or our grades that are given to us at the end of a semester, they're usually given to us in terms of the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F means you failed. So here our writer says you don't need to be a good writer to be a straight A student. All you need is money. Actually, if you have money in this world, you can do quite a bit. Though a lot of it is illegal or dishonest.
Yeah, there still are some things that money can't buy, but there are a lot of things that money can buy. And most people want to be rich, let's face it. So indeed, all you need is money if you want to be a grade A student and be a good writer at the same time. Now, this idea is the root of an issue or a topic that's plaguing many universities in the UK and the US. So, yeah, it's an issue. It's something that happens in society, and it's the root of an issue. It's kind of the problem of this particular issue. It's at the bottom of it. It's kind of where this problem starts, and it's plaguing universities in the UK and the US. So here we've got the word plague being used as a verb, which means it's kind of spreading a disease. A plague, of course, is a massive infectious disease that spreads through a society like the Black Plague of Europe many centuries ago. But again, we're talking about plague here as a verb. It's just basically contaminating those universities. It's a big problem at those places.
It sure is. So in recent years, college students have begun passing on their assignments to academic ghostwriters. I would say it's not that recent because when I was in New York, gosh, this is 25, 30 years ago when I first met this girl and hired her. She was hired to work as a graphics operator, not as a writer. And I could see she was a pretty good writer anyway. So we started a newsletter there and I let her write the newsletter. Someone else in the department, though, let me know her side gig or her side job was actually ghostwriting academic papers like term papers, research papers, which I didn't even know people would do, but it's been going on a while. Nowadays, though, it's easy to catch you. So be careful, guys. You shouldn't be doing this. If you're a specialist, it means you've concentrated very particularly on one subject or activity, and you've become quite good at it, quite skilled. So these are specialists in research, essay writing, and structure who are paid to do someone else's homework. My employee that I had for a while, I had to fire her for doing something else that was dishonest. So it's interesting. I think if you're dishonest in one area of your life, it kind of bleeds over or seeps into other parts of your life as well. But she was a specialist with English research papers. That was her specialty. Yeah. So there are people out there that you can hire, and they're easy to find online. But you better be careful.
Let me ask you this question here. What if you actually know all this information and you've gathered all the information, but you're just not a good writer and you need someone to kind of put it all together for you?
Nope.
Maybe as an editor or something, just to help you with the writing.
An editor fixes a paper or helps you, maybe looks at it after you're all finished. I can see maybe doing that. Although some professors will say they don't want anybody else reading your paper or looking at it. Yeah, but you know what? I went to a college where there was a large group of Asian students because it was a safe university. And all of their professors understood that their English skills were not going to be as good as native speakers. But they graded them fairly. They didn't expect them to write as well as, for example, me, who grew up in America. So your professors are fair about this, especially if they can see you tried. If you turn in a paper that's really great, or even, looks kind of like a native speaker wrote it, you might be in trouble.
Okay, well, I had another question regarding that because, of course, a lot of our students here will be studying overseas, and maybe they've done all the research and they've actually written a paper, but, of course, their English isn't so good, so it's full of grammatical errors and the structure's kind of off. So if they hire someone to fix it up for them, is that okay?
I would ask the professor, guys. If you go and talk to your teacher, find out what the rules are, what he or she says, and follow their guidelines.
Okay, good enough. And I think that brings us to the midway point here. We'll continue with the second paragraph in just a second, but right now we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学，大家好，我是 Patrick 老师。在我们正式开始前，老师想请问大家，写作业对大家来说是不是一种很大的困扰呢？希望同学不会感受到太大的困扰。其实，在台湾用中文写作业可能相对的比较简单了。将来大家如果有机会出国念书，用英文写作业可能会让大家觉得非常的头痛。那的确有一些非以英文为母语的人士，在美国、英美国家留学的时候，他们呢居然会找上别人来做代写他们的作业，代写他们的报告，甚至于他们的论文。那这篇文章就是在问我们，到底学历是否等于能力？现在有很多人说，名校毕业生未必是职场上的高手。公家机关，多数企业在任用员工的时候，都会要求要出示学历证明，借此判断求职者是否具足够的能力可以胜任工作。然而，如果求职者当初取得文凭的过程运用了不正当的手段，考试作弊，报告请人代写，那么学历等于能力，可能要打上更大的问号。在第11单元 The Sneaky Business of Academic Ghostwriting， 我们探讨了英美大学学生找人代写报告 Ghostwriting 带给高等学府的冲击，以及学校的应对方式。我们先看一下文章的标题 Sneaky 这个字是形容词，表示鬼鬼祟祟、偷偷摸摸的。我们可以造个例句 Sneaky behavior draws the eye Sneaky behavior draws the eye 鬼鬼祟祟、偷偷摸摸的行为引人注意。那这边所讲的 sneaky business， 我们就可以了解，这并不是光明正大的生意，而是 走旁门左道的生意。接着我们来看第一段还有哪一些重点。首先 It might startle you to learn this. You might be shocked when you learn this. It might startle you to learn this 就是 you might be shocked when learning this. Startle 就是震惊，这可能会吓到你。接下来 The idea. This idea. 这个 idea 代表的是什么呢？就是 all you need is money. 你只需要钱就好。Is the root of an issue that is plaguing many universities in the UK and the US. 请同学注意到问题的根源，把 root 标示起来。还有 plague， 它原本是名词瘟疫的意思，但这边是当作动词，让很多大学非常头痛的问题。接下来看到有些学生 pass on their assignments to academic ghostwriters， 有些学生呢找人代写报告，把他们自己的作业再丢给其他人来做。Pass on their assignments to academic ghostwriters， 请别人捉刀帮他们写报告。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue with our lesson. We got done with the first paragraph, and let's continue talking about ghostwriters who are specialists in research, essay writing, and structure, and they're paid to do the homework for students who just don't want to write it or who can't. And remember, we're not encouraging this, but unfortunately, this practice is still out there. In the next paragraph, it says, the essay for higher industry has spread rapidly across the developing world, particularly in countries like Ukraine and India, where eloquent English speakers are plentiful and salaries in other jobs are low. So this is going on all over the place. We did mention that it's plaguing universities in the UK and the US, but it's also spreading in the developing world, like in Ukraine, which is right next to Russia there. India, of course, not too far from here. And in those two countries there, Ukraine and India and other countries, they've got lots of eloquent English speakers. So if you're eloquent, your English is really good and you speak it really well.
Eloquent does not refer to how well you write. It's how well you speak. So if you're an eloquent speaker, you're really fluent. You use words and phrases that are quite lovely to listen to. I have a couple of friends who are quite eloquent. Now, if you are talking about something being plentiful, it means there's more than enough of something you want or need. So it exists in great quantities. So they've got a lot of eloquent English speakers, and they're plentiful. But if you look around, salaries in other jobs are quite low. And like normal people, a lot of the population in this world, they want to get the highest paying job they can possibly find. We don't blame them. So the pay for essay writing can be astonishing. It's really surprising how much people will pay to have a good paper written for them. Yeah, I bet.
Indeed. So, yes, their English abilities are astonishing, and the pay can be quite high or astonishing as well. Now, let's go to Africa here. We've got ghostwriters in Kenya, for example. They can take home up to $2,000 a month. Which may not sound like a lot here in Taiwan, but that would be 38 times the average national income in Kenya. So, indeed, Kenya, I believe, used to be a colony of Britain. So there, of course, are lots of people in Kenya who speak excellent English. And, of course, a lot of them think, hey, this is a good way to make some money for people who want to study in universities in the UK, etc. And, of course, they can make a lot of money doing that. Now, here in the next paragraph, it says, while this may be pulling third world writers out of poverty, first world universities are panicking about what it might mean for academic prestige and integrity. If you talk about third world countries, basically you're talking about developing countries.
Yeah, and first world countries would be countries that have a really good economy. They have a pretty high median income average for people who live in that country. Taiwan is definitely first world. U.S. is first world. But those developing countries or third world countries, you'll often see that as well. They don't have a good economy, and people struggle to even have enough money to not be considered poverty-stricken or so poor that it's difficult just to pay for a house and food and clothing for the kids. So, while this may be pulling third world riders out of poverty, those who can get those jobs, first world universities, these universities that people want to go to and get a diploma from, they're panicking. They're really nervous about what it might mean for academic prestige and integrity. Prestige is respect that's given to something that's quite worthy and notable. Prestigious schools would include those Ivy League schools. If you're going to the UK, it might be Cambridge or Oxford, those types of schools. They're hard to get into. And integrity is something that you lose when you cheat. Your integrity is the quality of being honest and having really strong moral principles, no matter how difficult it might be not to cheat. If you don't cheat and you're honest, ultimately you'll come out ahead in life.
Right, you might have somebody who's very immoral or unethical working in your company, and you can say, hey, you don't have an ounce of integrity. You're totally low class, you have no morals. Hey, we're going to fire you. But here's what a director at the University of California, San Diego said. This person said, it's a huge problem. That was a comment by this director at UC San Diego. It could turn every great university into a diploma mill.
Yeah, that's a great term.
Mill here is just a university, and indeed lots of people think they can get great jobs by having those certificates, a master's degree, a PhD, or whatever. But are they really learning something? Are they really masters of those subjects? Well, it's hard to tell. Now, moving on to the next paragraph here, it says, luckily, experts have been wising up to academic ghostwriting. So experts in the universities and elsewhere, they know this is going on. If you wise up to something, that means you become aware of something that's going on, usually when it's been hidden for a long time.
Yeah, I want to talk a minute about this diploma mill. We'll often use the phrase something mill to talk about a place. It just makes a lot of something that should be valuable, but because they do so much of it, it suddenly is without value. Some colleges are diploma mills. You know, people go there, but it's pretty easy to graduate, so it doesn't mean anything. They're afraid their great universities are suddenly going to be thought of as kind of, mediocre students graduate from that school. So here we're back at wising up. They're getting smart about ghostwriting. And this year, a U.S.-based tech company, this is a tech company that's in the U.S. This is a way to write it. It's called Turnitin, which is a great title. They released new software that identifies ghost-written documents. How do they do that? Well, the software is pretty cool. It can analyze sentence patterns and then compares them with the students' previous assignments. So there are already types of software out there. This is just a new one I've seen, but there are other software programs out there that do the same thing. So to analyze something means you examine it very carefully, in detail, and you want to break down the structure of something. So they're really going to look at your sentence patterns and compare them with past assignments.
Right, so they'll be able to tell, hopefully, using some kind of computer algorithms or things like that. And although this may curb academic ghostwriting, the University of Nottingham's Julia Molinari fears it fails to address the root of the problem. So, yes, this is going to the UK now, the University of Nottingham. Some person there says that this particular approach may curb academic ghostwriting, but it still won't get to the root of the problem. So curb here just means to reduce something, but still she thinks the problem is even deeper than that.
She thinks that students are often given really tight deadlines. A tight deadline means you don't have much time before something's due, before you have to turn it in. And these as non-native English speakers, and we have a lot of them in the US and the UK, they're writing in a style required by academic institutions. An institution is another word we use for typical educational institutions. It could be used to talk about a mental institution for people who are crazy. But here, she just says writing in that style is really difficult for them. It's more formal. But like I said, a lot of my professors were bad writers. Sometimes they tried to write sentences that were too long. Guys, you don't need a long sentence. You need a clear sentence. So just be clear. Don't try to put in fancy 成语 or phrases or sayings. Just try to be clear about your writing and you'll do well.Okay,
and the final sentence here, or at least the last two sentences say, if the system isn't reformed, if they don't improve it, will time-constrained students stop cheating? It's unlikely. So here, if you're time-constrained, that means you just don't have a lot of time. And yeah, you might think, hey, I got to get my paper done or else I'm not going to graduate, so I'll just hire somebody. No one's going to know the difference. Is this practice going to stop? Probably not. It's just too easy.Okay,
guys, we're going to listen one more time to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back.
我们先看一下第二段的文意，最主要是在说代写产业在开发中国家拓展相当迅速。为什么？因为薪资水准低，而代写价格相对高。The essay for hire industry has spread rapidly across the developing world. 请同学特别注意到 spread rapidly across。spread不只是传播的意思，在这边呢，我们可以说它扩展的很快，拓展的很快，都可以。那接着，这里面还有几个单字，请同学特别注意的，包括 eloquent 表示呢能言善道的。第二个 ghostwriters， 那请一并记起来的是 ghostwriting。ghostwriters 就是帮别人写作业的这些人 ，ghostwriters。那他们所做的这件事情，代写作业就是 ghostwriting。接着，请同学呢也特别学习一下，就是倍数的讲法，几倍几倍的讲法怎么讲 ？Ghostwriters in Kenya, for example, can take home up to $2,000 a month, about 38 times the average national income. 所以在肯亚帮别人写报告，他们大概一个月可以赚$2000。那这个呢，这么多的钱，大概就是全国所得平均的38倍。好，第三段，论文代写对已开发国家第一学府的冲击是什么？在第三段看得很清楚。While this may be pulling third world writers out of poverty, first world universities are panicking about what it might mean for academic prestige and integrity.很多已开发国家的一流学府不希望自己的高等教育机构变成学店。那我们请同学特别注意到 while 这个句型 while 是个连接词，它用来连接两个有文意上强烈对比的子句。你看，一个是等于是第三世界的这些代写的人，他们呢可以因此而脱贫。可是第一世界国家的这些高等教育机构，反而呢很担心自己的高级学府会在诚信上还有声望上受到冲击。好，接着请看到第四段。第四段是大学采取哪些对策？好，这边呢，请同学特别注意的是两个地方词语搭配，一个是解决问题的根源，我们用 address 这个动词 The new technology fails to address the root of the problem. 那再接下来，我们再说学生的时间很有限，那要交报告的时间、作业的时间很短，我们可以说 tight deadlines。tight deadlines。以上就是我们针对代写所做的中文讲解，谢谢大家。
That's it for today's lesson. Thank you so much for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our program. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.